Hello everyone and welcome to week 4 of English 120. This week we're going to be talking about argumentative essays. We're going to be writing an argumentative essay as our next main assignment, and we're going to be introducing this topic with two of our readings this week. We're going to read an essay called Argument, Critical Thinking, and Rationality by Williams and Kolob, and this is in the Conscious Reader from pages 114 to 134. Then you're also going to read an essay called What's Wrong with Cinderella by Orenstein, and that's also in the Conscious Reader from pages 64 to 74. This week we're going to discuss What's Wrong with Cinderella. We're going to do two journal entries, a short one on what is an argument, and based on what you learned from Williams and Kolob's essay. And then you're going to do some basic pre-writing for your upcoming essay that I'm going to be introducing to you in just a second. Then you're going to complete comp class, Understanding Research. So, one of the main things that Kolob and Williams talk about in their essay, which I think is a beautiful concept, is the idea of making clear, shining arguments. A lot of times in our culture, we think of arguing as something where it's one side against the other, and one side wins, and it's a battle. But actually, really well crafted arguments are a way to cooperate to solve tough problems. And you can't do that when you're, at each other's throats trying to one-up each other. Critical thinking, as Kolob and Williams state in their essay, is really an on-the-job skill. It's something that you'll use outside of college in your working life. And it's a very important skill. The use of argument is twofold. It's to convince others to think or do as we say, right? To convince them of our ideas. But it's also to decide for ourselves what we should think or do. That means whenever you go into an argument, when you go into understanding a certain topic and understanding both sides of that topic, which is what you do in an argument, you go in with an open mind that you might change your mind based on what you learn. And because of this, arguments give us many different skills. If we learn how to argue successfully, we learn patience to gather all of the information. Rather than reacting impulsively, we learn the ability to do research and understand the history of a topic, the related topics, both sides of a topic. We also get skepticism, to not accept things on face value. We get the logical ability to use facts as evidence instead of just having emotive responses, using logos or evidence factual evidence to support ideas. We seek facts that contradict our conclusions, right? We actually look for something so that we know for sure we're absolutely right. You look for the opposite. And it makes us ready to change our mind. One thing that the essay talks about is how writing down your argument is really a benefit. If you're having an oral argument, you think really on the spot, and you have more of a tendency to become emotive, to draw from mainly pathos, which is emotional, personal example, and emotional example to support what you're saying, rather than using researched evidence to support something. When you write down an argument, it gives you time to consider your view of the argument. In a verbal debate, you make quick decisions, and writing down your argument makes you fully examine your argument. It helps you check your facts and your logic, and it helps you learn how to interact with others. It helps you learn how to interact with others who have different opinions than you. Now, critical thinking is a huge part of argumentation. The word kritikos means to judge an idea by separating the evidence, the facts, from your feelings and the feelings of others, right? Because feelings alone cannot prove a thesis. No matter how passionately you feel about something, you can't prove a thesis with feelings. Good critics ask questions and find answers through research. Good critics question themselves and their ideas. There's two different kinds of problems that critics try to solve. The first one is a practical problem. If you're solving a practical problem, you're finding an immediate solution to something. So, for example, perhaps on campus, um, uh, a few years ago, the cafeteria shut down, and we had to think of a solution. How will we provide food on campus? And without reopening the cafeteria, what's an alternative solution? Well, in order to solve that, people had to do research and understand, okay, what are the different options, right? Before they came up with the idea of having food carts, right, having food trucks on campus, there was a lot of research done to understand, the practical benefits and the availability. All the different factors were thought about. That's a practical problem that was solved through research. Conceptual problems are huge human problems, right, that help us think about the world, but they aren't solvable, immediately solvable. Doesn't mean they aren't solvable. So, for example, um, understanding the meaning of life is a conceptual problem. Large conceptual problems like that. They oftentimes in academic research, you do research conceptual problems like um, because it's an activity for critical thinking that expands your thought and helps you think about things even if they're not solvable. So there's an actual form to a thoughtful argument, as they state in the essay. The first thing you do is you make a claim, and that's a statement you want us to believe, okay? It has to be a reasonable claim, okay? And then you give reasons that make us believe by giving evidence, okay? So you make a claim. For example, you say, something. I live in Sebastopol, which was home of the Sebastopol Gravenstein apple, and it's my favorite apple. And if I were to make a claim, I could say the Gravenstein apple is the best apple to make to use in uh, apple crisps, and then I could give reasons, right? I could say it's the best apple for apple crisps because it's tart and it doesn't lose its tartness when it's cooked, okay? I could also say that it's the best apple to use for apple crisp because it is locally produced, and you would help the by buying local, you could help the infrastructure here, like the economy, the local economy. I would want to know what my intentions were for making this claim. So, are my intentions to promote the Gravenstein apple, or are my intentions to convince you of using Gravenstein apples when you cook and bake? I'd want to understand that. Am I promoting something for business sake? I also want to understand the history of the topic and the counter arguments. Who else has been arguing for the Gravenstein apple? Well, certainly not the grape industry, right? The wineries are taking over the Gravenstein apple space in Sebastopol. So that would be something to think about. And I'd want to understand the counter arguments for why the vineyards believe that they're a better crop, and they have a lot of great arguments, like the idea that historically crops have come in and out. For example, think about in the Napa Valley. The Napa Valley used to be filled with I think wheat, right? During the gold rush, that was the main crop in the Napa Valley, and that's certainly gone out of fashion, and now vineyards have come in. So understanding the other side, the counter arguments, and I would need to find a rebuttal for why I think it's still important to keep an heirloom fruit, right, alive, like the Gravenstein apple. And I would do research to support what I was saying. I'd also want to know if there are other people who have been talking about this and what they've said and who are the experts. So that's just an example of how you would set up an argumentative essay. Like you'd start with that claim, the reasons, and continue. As you supported your claim throughout your essay, you would use three different things. The first thing you would use in your introduction is you would build ethos. That's your persona. That you would build yourself as a trustworthy, open-minded source who has authority to speak about this subject, okay? You would also you would use logos and pathos to build your argument, to clearly communicate logically and with pathos why um, why this is why they should agree with you about this topic. Okay, logos appeals to the reader using reason and evidence. These would be our facts and figures. Pathos appeals to the reader using emotions, like giving a real human example. So if I'm writing my Gravenstein apple essay, I could give you facts about the Gravenstein apple and why it's a great crop and how it's excellent to use in apple crisps. But if I was using pathos, I would tell you about a farmer who farms Gravenstein apples. Like my dad's best friend Stan is an apple farmer. I could tell you all about Stan and his farming techniques and how he supports the community by being a Gravenstein apple farmer. These are just a few examples. And for ethos, I could say that I was a lifetime Sevastopol resident, that I grew up in the area, that I'm a researcher. I'm a PhD in English, and I research the history, the local history of the area. I would build up who I am and why I have authority to talk about this topic. I might even say that I make a really good apple crisp, right? And that I have a family recipe that we've handed down. So I have some sort of connection to the baking aspect as well. Another thing you need to think about when you're writing an argumentative essay is about the reader. The reader is always asking you, why should I care? Whenever you make a claim, you got to think about the reader. And I want you to think about this when you're reading Peggy Ornstein's article, What's Wrong with Cinderella? Because many people have different reactions to this essay. And it's important for you to think about your reaction and why you have it, because you're the reader, you're the audience. When you're writing your own essay, one way to find out the reader's reaction is to ask fellow students or to visit your professor in office hours, right? Remember, I have office hours on Wednesdays. Or to send me an email and talk about it, or talk about it with your friends and family. One way that you begin writing your argumentative essay, and we're going to begin doing this next week, is you create an elevator story. We're going to work on understanding how to write understanding an elevator story this week, and next week you're going to actually write your own elevator story. So an elevator story has it starts off with the question or problem your argument will address. Then you talk about why that problem is important or interesting to you, right? Why do you care about this topic? And then you propose a possible answer or solution to the problem, and then you list the evidence you expect to find to support your answer. So for discussion forum this week, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to read Peggy Ornstein's article, What's Wrong with Cinderella? And then I want you to answer the following questions in discussion forum. What's the question or problem that she's writing about? Why is the problem interesting or important to her? Not to you, to her. What is her proposed answer to this question or this problem? And what evidence does she use in her essay to support what she's saying? Then after you say all of this, without bias, right, just about her, I want you to tell me at the end whether you agree or disagree and why. So just to introduce briefly the argumentative essay, which will be due March 4th, so you have several weeks to work on this. You're going to be writing an argumentative essay, and you're going to choose one of the topics that's introduced in the essays we've read so far in The Conscious Reader. And this is up until next week. So there's 2 more essays. If you look at the last slide in this deck, you'll see there's 2 more essays you can choose the topics from. When you write your essay, you're going to introduce the topic and the conversation you are joining. You're going to clearly state your thesis and the subtopics you will address in order to prove your thesis, right? You're going to use evidence from the conscious reader to support the points you are making in your essay. Then you're going to conclude your essay by showing how you've proven your thesis, explaining what the reader gained by reading your paper, and by relating your paper to a larger purpose. Your essay should be 2 to 3 typed pages, and you will upload it in the assignment folder. And it should be, well, obviously it should be written legibly because it's going to be typed, okay? Your essay should have your name in the left-hand corner, the date, and our class, English 120, and my name, Dr. Dunkel. See page 357 of the Bedford Researcher for an example of MLA formatted papers. And your paper should also have a creative title. A successful paper will show critical thinking and use logos, pathos, and ethos effectively. All this information that I'm giving you in this prompt is exactly how you'll be graded on the essay. You're also going to be doing a lot of pre-writing. You're going to be doing an elevator story worksheet. You're also going to be doing another blog entry on logos, pathos, and ethos. This will all happen next week, so please only do your pre-writing this week, and I'll give you information about it. I just wanted you to know what was coming in the next 2 weeks as an assignment. This essay will be worth 50 points. So here's the schedule for the next 2 weeks. Week 5, you'll be doing a lot of work on your essay, and remember there's 2 more topics that you can choose from for your essay. And then week 6, you'll be turning in your essay, well, it's really your second essay, and we'll be doing some more comp class. Also, don't forget this week to complete your comp class. You'll be doing, just one second. You will be doing understanding research as your comp class topic. All right, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. If you can't get a hold of me quickly at idunkel@napavalley.com, you can always email me at iris.dunkel@gmail.com, or you can give me a call. I look forward to talking to you guys. Bye.